Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and a few boys and girls also that are here today. So, welcome to this third session of our event today. So far, it's been an exciting day, and it's my responsibility to keep you further excited, engrossed, and engaged mindfully as we move forward. Whenever we have a last session, there are two big challenges. One is having people's attention fixed, and one is having the time frame for which the session has been allotted to be within that. Now, before I begin, some housekeeping rules. Please, if you can have the phones a little bit switched off or keep it on silent. A lot of us here in front are taking down notes, so that would help. And we will have a time for some questions towards the end. We will see how we can get that organized. Now, I have with me the CXO level panel here, probably the biggest panel that we have in the day, and I think this is some sort of a jinx that Yash has done today to keep this heavy towards the end. And I think it's important for us to understand the background from which they come. So, very quickly, I welcome my entire panel here. Introduction has been done, so for the interest of time, I am going to skip that part. Let's do a quick exercise. 3 questions, and I'm inviting my panelists as well to answer, and so all of you. So, with a raise of hands, how many of you use a 2G phone or an analog phone? Nobody. How many of still call your favorite customer service agent for status updates on the shipments? Nobody. Excellent. And how many of you here are concerned about the replacement of jobs with the advent of digital technology? Hand. There you are. There you are. Let me set the context for what we're talking today, and I think over the day today, we've had comments multiple on technology, we've heard on sustainability, we heard a shipper's voice, we've heard other voices, a lot of them talking about what the future is. And I think the panel today is going to focus more on what the future would be as far as automation, digitalization is going to bring to our table. Because we have a panel that's international here, this session would be more on an international perspective rather than having it Indian. So, the numbers guy that I am, some few numbers just to set the context. $6 trillion worth of trade is enabled by air. There are 70 to 90 million jobs, and I'm talking worldwide, that is supported by air. Fun fact, on e-commerce that we've been talking along today, 2.63 billion online shoppers were there in 23. Put that in context, we are 8 billion population in the world, 2.3 are shopping already online. 1 out of 5 packages is now online. There's 170 billion parcels that moved in 22. All right. Now, as we all know, logistics today is we're having a generalization shift, and by 29, the youngest baby boomer will be 65. And the elder members of the Generation X will be on the verge of retirement, which means that all those who are in the process of getting into this industry are going to be the new millennials who are going to be extremely tech savvy. They're not going to be the paper people that my generation was. The window, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, is narrowing. And AI will continue to advance at a breakneck speed, whether we like it or not. While we are still on the precipice of a full-scale AI adoption, we are already beginning to teeter on its edge. What is needed, therefore, is a balance between AI and critical engines. Just a few quick points before I open up to my panel. We've all heard about predictive analysis. What we used to do earlier was to take data from the past, evaluate, make comments, ideas, and move forward. That's going to go, whether we like it or not. What you're going to do is you're going to get the same data, but you're now going to have machines through MI and AI going to tell you what the future looks like. We already are on the cusp of a major digital revolution. And as the polls suggest today, we are well within that space to take it further. We are going to get into blockchain, again, whether we like it or not. And this blockchain is going to be embraced by all of us in this room. Again, whether we like it or not, it's going to be there. We are going to have a lot more data with us as we move forward. And this data is going to come from all the sources from the ecosphere. We're going to have from the shippers, from the forwarders, terminal operators, airport, truckers, everybody's going to have data. What's the big difference is they are going to get interconnected with each other. And as we will see that as we move forward. I am going to start with Dr. Zvi. Dr. Zvi, you are a serial tech entrepreneur and you founder of Freightos. It's a NASDAQ company. Let's go a little technical, if I may, with you, Dr. Zvi. How can the air cargo industry overcome the challenge of integrating e-booking platforms with legacy systems and different stakeholders across the supply chain? That's what I would like to begin my question with you, Dr. Zvi. Please.
All right, thanks, Kaku. Well, I would like to a little bit challenge the question. I think that the air cargo industry has adopted e-booking. We actually manage the leading platform for electronic booking, WebCargo by Freightos. And WebCargo by Freightos is now doing bookings at a rate of 1 million bookings a year, 80,000 per month. So you can't say anymore that it's not being adopted. It's now being adopted quite some scale. We have more than 50 airlines with electronic bookings. Our partners from Turkish are one of the active sellers who provide capacity via WebCargo.
Yep.
We have about 4,000 forwarders booking electronically. So it's quite a big scale. Now it's true, there's still a lot more offline, and India's been a little behind Europe in adopting. In Europe, I think most of the spot bookings are now done electronically already in many countries. But also in India, we now have a few thousand bookings every month.
Wow.
So the revolution, and by the way, 5 years ago there was 0. So in the last 5 years, electronic booking for air cargo has become a reality. And yes, some people are holding out or more traditional. But there are no major barriers anymore. It is being adopted very rapidly by the industry, which is exciting.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zvi, for taking that up as a start. I will come back to you with a follow-up question, but I'm going to get to Madam Alnood. Senior Vice President of Menzies. You worked with Etihad. You've got experience now on both sides of the table. We keep hearing this word transparency. We keep hearing this word of real-time tracking with customers, etc. How does this impact customer satisfaction and loyalty? From your perspective, from the company's perspective.
Okay, so I just want to start by saying everyone expects to know where their shipments are at all times.
Absolutely.
Inevitable. And I feel like the pandemic has only made that even more subconsciously a must. And we have to follow suit to give the customers that experience that is expected. So if I move, that's just a general statement for the whole of the air cargo industry. So if I just move specifically to Menzies Aviation. So we've opted with WebPro, a very well-known digitalization software provider. They have given us a system, cargo management system known as MAC. And within MAC, and through the transparency of where the shipment needs to be or where my shipment is, because that's what I would expect on a personal level, what that would give is a traffic-based system where you'd have red, yellow, and green, so you can really focus on the red shipments that are requiring urgent focus, So that would break down for us on what we would need to do operationally to get those through to where they need to be. And at the same time, that would give the end user instant access to where their shipments are in real time. So that's what we are doing on a Menzies level.
Thank you. One of the questions, earlier part of my career that I would dread when I get a phone call was 4 words, which was, where is my cargo? Most dreadful question in this industry anybody can receive is that one. But thank you for your comments, Madam Alnood. I'm going to Dr. Joshi. Dr. Joshi, as Deputy Secretary, Logistics Division, you are in the policy framework. You heard Yash and Mark just now talk about transshipment. You've heard about the challenges that we are facing. And I want to go back on the digital aspects of what we were discussing earlier this afternoon. The government did the PM National Gati Shakti National Master Plan. You've got the ULIP. You've got the National Logistics Policy. The question I have for you is, these are game changers. But from a digital perspective, can you take us from the time these policy initiatives were taken by the Government of India, where have we reached now? Right? What's the journey been so far? What's the digital component that has been done so far? Because as I understand, there are other countries now across the world who are beginning to look at this model and say, look, you know what, if India has done it, probably other countries can do it as well. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the question. So as you rightly mentioned that, we have come a long way. Talking about logistics, if I take you just 3 years back when we didn't have a national logistic policy or we didn't have a national master plan, if you look at this space, logistic as an industry was also, not classified very well. So it took us some time to sort of get it included in the harmonized list. Then right now, if you look at the state logistic policies, after the launch of national logistic policies, 24 plus states in our country have notified their logistic policies and have identified logistics as an industry, as a sector. And that we understand opens up a lot of financial incentives for this industry and will be a game changer when it comes to small players at the state level. Now, when we come to digital components, as Government of India, the idea is to make sure that you have a framework at place, you have a policy guideline at place, and at times providing a basic platform, which is what ULIP did. So where rather than you going and asking a variety of data from all the other central ministries, what we did was to collate all of that through API and we opened it up to industry. The expectation was that all kind of applications, rather than them coming up in silos, will now be built over this platform. And it's going quite well. I mean, there are 100 plus applications which have already been developed. We actually look forward to industry for taking it a step forward, whether it is about the discussion or how we can improve it better. We have also started getting the e-way bill data in ULIP. So that has happened just almost a year back, and now with that option available as well, I think that will open a lot more area when it comes to logistics, commodity tracking and things like that, and such application is something which even we are looking forward to. So we are trying to create a basic digital model. In fact, we were talking about e-commerce. We have ONDC now, which is there for the, all kind of players to come on board and make sure that e-commerce really takes and achieve the speed in the country. So what I'm trying to mention here is that a lot of steps at policy level has been taken, and we are also in the process of taking further steps and defining further actions. But if there is anything else, I have always been saying that, see, this is the sector where R&D at industrial level is far, far more important. We were in Singapore, and Etihad and Danatas has done such a fantastic job there, looking at the air cargo and developing the R&D, which now is being, evolved at the country level. Now, we also want to hear back from industry. We also look back at that sector, and somehow that is the input, which you would want to hear more about. That what can be done, and like always, what example can you take and replicate at national level? The government is open to such suggestions, but come up, with workable, expandable examples which can be taken and replicated at national level.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi. As always, and I can say from my past experience, the government has been extremely forward-thinking in form of asking stakeholders to come up with, as you rightly said, workable, implementable solutions for the benefit. Great stuff. Thank you so much, Dr. Joshi. Khalid, you're a computer engineer and you're in the air freight industry. Probably the best combination, probably in the stage that we have. Khalid, I want to ask you something which involves both these. How can air cargo industry overcome the challenges of integrating the technologies that we have of AI, of blockchain, of IoT into the legacy systems? How do you perceive that to be easy, tough, will take time, imaginable? Your take.
Yes, thank you. It's a difficult question, but I think we need to start with the basics. Like you rightly mentioned, everyone has a phone now, right? So in 2021, we started our WhatsApp chatbot. Everyone uses WhatsApp. Rather than calling someone to check with where is your cargo, you can just ask to WhatsApp chatbot and you can get an instant answer. That's very easy adaptation of AI to
Correct.
anyone. So that kind of steps we started taking earlier, and this year we will integrate ChatGPT to this platform. On top of that, of course, more and more complicated projects are in place, like our ACRM, which is a revenue management platform. It is not easy to integrate revenue management when there's so much disruption. Like we have Red Sea crisis, we had pandemic, so it's very, very dynamic environment. So even these technologies are having difficulty to catch up with the current demand of today. So we are doing it step by step and testing phase by phase, and with that we will serve our customers better, I think.
Thank you, Khalid. I think what you brought out was very important, that we take this step by step. To a lot of us, these are nice words to hear and very futuristic thinking, but I don't think we should jump the gun so quickly and done. But nevertheless, that should be in our horizon as we move forward, because that's, like I said earlier, inevitable. Kamesh, again, you've got great experiences with the airline, with terminal operations, etc. Put yourself in the shoes of a shipper for a moment and answer me this: the long-term benefits of technology and sustainability beyond financial returns.
I think if you look at the topics of technology and sustainability, these are not the common topics that are discussed at the boardroom level. It normally is around financials, the commercials, the operations, efficiency, productivity, and things like that. But I think the time has come for these topics, though I would say when it comes to technology, that's something which is being actively discussed and being pursued in the senior management levels. But the topic of sustainability needs to gain more traction. There needs to be more discussion around it, because ultimately it's all about making sure that whatever efforts are being done in these areas will also have a contributing effect for the air cargo business as a whole. So as a first step, what could be considered is to have topics of technology and or digitization or sustainability as part of the key metrics, which is monitored on a regular basis. So set yourselves targets. Normally the companies have 5-year plans, business plans. So try and set targets which are related to technology and sustainability over the next couple of years. Start making that as an active monitoring parameter and look at how the company is performing in those areas. And as the experience has shown in the recent times, usage of technology, especially in air cargo, has made it a lot more efficient in terms of the operations, has made it a lot more transparent, and has made it a lot more error prone in terms of data capture
and processing of the cargo. So there is a role to play. I'm not trying to say that the technology bit has not been discussed or not been promoted, but it's not been promoted well enough. And on the point of sustainability, there's definitely a lot of work to be done. Though there are the industry standards, there is a target of 2000, net zero emission by 2050
Correct.
by IATA. But the question is, how is it being broken down at the industry level, at the business level, and what are the various organizations doing to contribute towards it in their own little manner so that the larger goal is going to be achieved over a period of time. So there is work to be done. It's not just about trying to talk in forums like this and do a few initiatives here and there, but there's a lot more that can be done. And in my view, the starting point could be to make that as part of your key metric monitoring. If that were to happen, many things will happen on its own.
Very well brought out, Kamesh. Thank you. I come to Soham. Soham, to me personally, I love predictive analysis. I think that this is probably one of the game changers as a low-hanging fruit, because you're simply taking data that you already have, you're using machine learning, you're using AI now to predict what the future would do. Clear so far. Now, the question I have is, are the customers ready to pay for this? How much will they benefit by this to you?
Great question. So the real question is, what is the need, right?
Yeah.
Predictive analytics, predictive ETA, it's great, right? But like you asked, who's ready to pay for it, which begs the question, what's the need? I'll tell you from our experience what we are seeing, right? Cross-border e-commerce in general is growing, right? And that's where now the end customer is seeing this information, right? End customers like you and I, right? Now imagine we're used to things like 15-minute delivery where we can see the driver, for example, live on a map,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Now with cross-border e-commerce, we expect the same. Why should we expect anything different? So what we are seeing is the end customer actually pushing enterprises to adopt this kind of technology. And we're actually seeing enterprises now, for example, we're working with one of the very large global freight forwarders that is getting into, say, cross-border e-commerce now. And when they do this, and when the end customer is actually involved, things like missing ETAs doesn't work, right?
Got it.
Making the right promise, meeting the right promise, right? That's the case. And if this comes in, customers are more than willing to pay for this because it results in direct revenue and customer satisfaction. And overall, so that's the trend that we're seeing. And when it comes to not just ETAs, but predictive analytics in terms of what could potentially go wrong, would my shipment get offloaded, which would mean there would be a delay. Customers like to know in advance, but not just this, can we ensure that this does not happen in the first place, right? So that we can actually meet the customer expectation. So that's kind of what we're seeing, and that's what I believe customers are willing to pay for.
So it's going to be push notifications rather than pull notifications.
Absolutely, right? And it's going to be a pull from the end customer that's going to make enterprises change.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So let me stay back with you because I want to come back on this from that side as well. And I asked this to Dr. Zvi earlier, and I want to put the same question across to you as this challenge of integrating e-booking platforms with legacy platforms. Do we have a timeline? There's no crystal ball here, so shoot out a timeline that you think that this is going to probably roll out at an accelerated pace over the period of time. Your best guess.
I think it's here and now. We're seeing the demand for this. The companies, of course, there's an adoption curve. But if I say, 5 years back to now, we see a huge demand for this. And not just, it's across, right? Whether you look at air, ocean, right? E-booking, digital booking, it's all coming in. And I think what's really happening is a leapfrogging when it comes to technology. We're going to move directly from, the old paper-based methods to now a complete leapfrogging of technology where customers expect a digital portal. They expect complete self-service systems, right? I mean, just look at you and I, right? We don't want, we want everything to be in our control, right? Which means that all these systems need to be integrated. And we see that happening here and now. I don't think it's something of the future. The companies that are investing in this are seeing direct benefits in terms of revenue growth and, you know, customers actually coming to their platforms for this.
That's an interesting take. So it's here and now. We don't need to talk about the future. So you operate and be part of the game. You don't adopt and you're going to get pushed out.
Yeah, yeah.
Great stuff. Kamesh, data standardization. Again, something that is probably a challenge that we have. Some of the basic terms that we use to gather data are often misrepresented, don't have the correct connotation, etc. And you see that happening with data collection. It's a big challenge. What is your take on how can we standardize this? Do we depend on one universal body to say, you know what, this is how this data is going to be taken, and this is how, whether it's machine learning or AI, they will have to stick by this. What's your take, Kamesh?
I think the standardization topic is a very important one, especially for our industry, given the fact that it's very fragmented. You know, we have multiple stakeholders, right from the shippers, the freight forwarders, the airlines, the terminal operators, and also the government bodies who are an integral part of the entire supply chain. So with so many different stakeholders who have possibly not always they have common interests, but ultimately the challenge still rises. How do you make supply chain efficient? How do you make sure that the flow of information from one stakeholder to the other is as seamless as possible? So one of the first things that comes to my mind is to have standard formats. And if I were to look at what has been done, it's been more around the airlines, the terminal operators, maybe to do with the regulatory authorities also. For instance, IATA used to have the messaging, you know, the IMP codes, which has been now replaced by XML. And now IATA is talking about one record, which basically is a unified platform where you're going to see a whole amount of data stored, which is going to be easily accessible to the various stakeholders of the supply chain. So something like that were to be brought into place, which is acceptable by all the stakeholders, which is something that will see to it that the information flow is acceptable to each and everyone because it contains what they are looking for, what is useful for their operations, for their business. And at the same time, it is something which is not going to be duplicated. It is one set of information which is flowing across the supply chain, and anybody can tap into it, make use of for their own business or operations. And at the same time, it also is relevant for the other stakeholders. So something like that, that kind of a standard framework is only possible if there's a lot of collaboration which takes place between the stakeholders. Now, I'm not trying to say that that has not happened. It has been happening for a long time. But still, the concerted approach which is required, where you have all the stakeholders in one common room, sitting and trying to thrash out a solution, we're far away from that. So people are doing their bits and pieces in the hope that things will connect. And ultimately, trade bodies like IATA do come up with solutions which are widely acceptable, though not 100% acceptable by all the stakeholders. So there's progress being made, but perhaps not to the extent where it should be. And one other thing which comes to my mind is we've seen the introduction of technology players in logistics and supply chain. It was not so prominent in the past. We saw a lot of technological efforts on the financial side, on consultancy, advisory, and those kind of things, retail, manufacturing. But now we see the technology companies who are well established are looking at logistics and supply chain as a vertical where they would want to focus. So we see a lot of these premium technology companies coming to the logistics space, trying to create solutions, things like predictive analysis, which is useful in terms of making sure that a shipment is being moved to the destination in the shortest period of time with the least cost possible.
Correct.
So those kind of little things because air cargo certainly has a lot of data which is available. It's a question of how do you mine it, how do you use it for the present and for the future. With the support and the incoming of the technology companies in the logistics and supply chain sector, there's hope that many solutions which have been best performed in other industries could also come our way, and there will be many more improvements on the technological side that we can see in the years to come.
Thanks, Kamesh. Khalid, coming back to your engineering, computer engineering part and being part of this industry, how can companies measure the long-term benefits of technology? Is there a benchmark, a measure that you can say that, if you adopt this technology, you will get a benefit. Right now, the benefits probably are more tangible than intangible. As you move forward, okay, would customers, and I'm talking end customers, prefer a company that is a highly technology-driven company to say, you know what, we're going to deal with you because you give us more accurate information, you give us better options. What's your take, Khalid, on this?
Okay, as an airline, again, it's a difficult question, but as an airline, we have our own limits. We are doing our best from our side, okay. Maybe, let's say, for track and trace, we are using a disposable sensor that you can monitor anywhere it is moving with humidity, temperature, whatever. And you can give a best service in your hub, okay. But we have a lot of stakeholders, right, in the origin, in the destination. So, and we are using our partner airlines also. We are not always using our own capacity. We are also collaborating with other airlines. So there are a lot of stakeholders that need to come together to create value. We are not alone. Even if you are doing the best, you are one of the stakeholders can keep you behind. And in the end, it all depends on whole industry and looking at as a whole. So in that sense, I think one record kind of initiatives and the stakeholders which has this awareness and willingness to adapt will create the value.
Makes sense. Thank you, Khalid. Dr. Joshi, sorry, I'm going to come back to the regulatory perspective with you because there's no better person in this room than you who can support that. We've seen with ULIP what has happened. We had a program, NACS, a couple of years back, and we realized that ULIP is doing what NACS could do. Specifically on ULIP, have we gone or have we reached that stage of the program or project where the founding fathers of this project said, yes, we're going to have the integration done completely with the entire stakeholders. So we're talking shippers, forwarders, truckers, customs house agents, terminal operators, government, everybody. Where are we at this moment? I hope I didn't put you on a spot.
No, not at all, never. See, like we said, it's a stepwise procedure. The platform is quite mature now. It has been some time. In fact, even before we launched it, we had 5 use cases with us ready when Honorable PM launched it almost 2 years ago. At this moment, like I mentioned, you already have a lot of use cases, and the next steps and the natural steps is to have the complete, onboarding, complete integration. The only idea is maybe to move a little stepwise, that which should be the first component where we should have end-to-end integration. Whether we are looking at the air cargo side first, are we going to look at the, because you have all mode of transportation available there.
Correct.
So, but yes, I think that's a great idea. In fact, to be very honest, I'll have to literally check that what is the next step planned in that. But yes, the readiness of the platform, the maturity of platform, the quality of work there and the quality of API integration which has been achieved. See, last time when we were discussing, if you remember, the major talk was when will we have the GSTN data.
Correct.
And that was the reason I emphasized in my comments that we have it now as well. Today maybe I'll take back this comment, and the next time you invite me, I'll mention that we are ready for this as well. So, but I just want to mention one more thing because I've been hearing from everyone else. When it comes to integration of platforms, and we are talking about, I also wanted to mention about the work which is happening with the customs. So you must be knowing that SWIFT 2 is almost ready, which is going to be again integrating many custom procedures. So it's just taking a little bit of time, but they are trying to integrate as many message as many APIs as possible to complete the complete gamut of players involved, including the PGAs and that kind of approval. We are also trying to make sure that we have all your partner government agencies also onboarded. At the same time, iSkate 2 is ready, already functional, and we are again there also trying to make sure whichever API is not yet integrated to go ahead for that. And you're also aware of one more thing. To be competitive, to be internationally active, we are also working on something called a standard operating procedure. That is another topic we discussed last time. And the recent cargo mapping of the airport cargo mapping, which we have done at IGI Airport, with all the players involved, we are able to identify almost 22 actionable items, out of which 18 are digital, technical intervention, and we have also started working on that. So, identification, standardization, these are all the things government is actually looking forward to, and we are trying our best to include as many digital solutions, because in fact, to be honest, when we talk about digital solution, from our side we say it's a low-hanging fruit. Oh, all you need is digitization, let's just do it. So that's the kind of approach which we have started working with.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Sri. You are working on something called dynamic pricing algorithms. For the benefit of this audience, and especially me, what exactly is this that you're working on? Sounds futuristic. What exactly does it do? And how accurately is it reflecting market demand while ensuring fairness and transparency to customers?
Sure. Well, I mean, the airline industry has always had some kind of dynamic pricing, but up to now it's been human beings sort of getting a feel for the market and updating the price in a spreadsheet. But the exciting thing about electronic bookings, like I mentioned now, we're doing thousands of electronic bookings every day, hundreds in India, hopefully soon thousands in India as well. So when you're doing electronic bookings, we see second by second what the prices are, what the demand is, what the supply is. So we have very accurate data, really updated second by second. And that allows us to run algorithms, including AI algorithms, to predict what would be the best price in a given market, and to update that every single day or even hour by hour. So I think that's an important, and it's not just the price, it's the densities. So, in air cargo, it's very important. Maybe the flight is almost maxed out on volume, but it's still got a lot of weight available, or vice versa. So I think that's the exciting thing. Electronic booking is not just a better way of booking, but it creates real-time data which allows new business models like fully dynamic pricing, fully dynamic density.
So just to clarify from my perspective, you have an API that you will link with the airline and the customer, and you will have a seamless flow of information using algorithms that would be beneficial to both.
Well, we never set the price. So we have APIs. You talked about standardization. We provide the de facto standardization.
Got it.
We have 50-something airlines who provide an API to us, 50-something different APIs. And we create a single user interface, an API, where you can query 50 airlines. But we never set our own price. Separately, we provide data to the airlines and analysis to help them set the price dynamically. But it's always up to the airline to set the price. We never set the price. But we advise that we give the airlines data so that they can update the price dynamically. And then we take the price for this second from 50 airlines and provide it in one user interface and one API to the freight forwarders.
Perfect, thank you. Ma'am Alnood, a little bit on carbon offsets. Big topic going around the world, a lot of players within the aviation ecosystem now clearly telling us it's time that the customer knows what's the carbon offset, how are you going to offset it, etc. As Menzies, and with your previous experience in Etihad, how can this be effectively measured and validated?
Okay, so I just want to start by saying on an industry level, so everyone's working towards the same target, so the offset being net zero by 2050. So, and you hear different companies stating how they look at scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 to be able to achieve those targets collectively. So if I focus on Menzies Aviation in particular, so we have what we call short-term targets, and long-term targets. So our short-term targets are due to be executed by 2030, and our long-term targets are actually due to be executed during 2045,
Good.
which is even better than the expectation, right?
Yep.
So, and how we do that is we look into things like your fossil fuels, so alternative kind of fuelings, hydrogen, and electronic GSEs. So those are the type of cargo-related, mandated type of short-term offsets that we can achieve.
Got it.
So on the long-term stuff, or more of a calibration between our sheds and the landlords. So we are looking at things like your solar panels on top of roofs. So Prague is a perfect example of that. So we've actually applied that in Prague already.
Got it.
But it's also getting the landlords to agree to getting those solar panels installed. So those are the type of things that we look at. A very big subject in the cargo industry is your plastic wraps.
Correct.
So we've looked into a company named BioNature. So they look at how effective recycling of the plastic is. But just to dive a bit more deeper into that, they also work with us on how we can dispose the plastic correctly in an environment-friendly manner. So it's covering a lot more than what the expectation is. But that's the type of
Super.
stuff that we do in Menzies particularly.
Great move forward. Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, I have something called Time's Up here. I don't know whether it means I have to get up from here and move or what, but we have time, right? Very good. He says we have a lot of time. So what we do now is a segment, what I call Know Your Panelists from a Different Perspective. And what you're going to do is, I've prepared a set of questions that I'm going to quiz them on. No thinking. Straight off the top, what you're going to tell me about. So I'm going to start with you, Madam Al-Noor. As a career, was aviation your first choice or last alternative? Correct.
Right, okay. So I'll talk about my education first of all. So I have a bachelor degree in biomedical science, and I have a master degree in biomedical engineering, so nothing to do with aviation. I'm going to go personal now. So my father's a pilot, my grandfather's a pilot, my father-in-law's a pilot, and my husband's a pilot. So subconsciously, there's something there that connects me to aviation, right?
Got it.
So I actually grew up with my mother in the UK in a town named Newcastle. So when I decided to move back to the UAE, I was offered different jobs, right? And one of them was Etihad. So my mom thought I was completely insane because I had nothing to do with what I've been studying and what I had my previous work experience in. My father, on the other hand, was pro, yes, do it, 100%. So it wasn't the last alternative, but it wasn't the first.
Got it.
Thank you.
Fair point. Dr. Zvi.
Well, Freightos is a software company. Being in software was my first choice, and serving the air cargo industry is a pleasure as well.
Perfect. Dr. Joshi, wrong question, but I still need your answer.
Yeah.
Would you like to have this be your first choice, now that you've been in this sphere for the last 3-4 years?
I'll look for the office. No, on the serious, on serious note, I think it's a wonderful industry to look at infrastructure, to look at logistics. I mean, if you really want to know my background, half of the people think I have a doctor because I'm PhD, but I'm a dentist.
You're a dentist?
Yeah. So,
Wow.
you know, you write civil services in India, if you need to have a basic graduation. I was supposed to choose between what best at that time, engineering, medical exam, MBBS, BDS. Then I gave my civil services and, you know, so I cannot say that whether it's a first choice or not, but I'll just say that I think it's a very impactful area. It's an area where you still have the opportunity of doing a lot. There is still a lot of space to come up with new things, and you know, it sort of binds everything. A good logistics ecosystem is something you need for each and everything. I mean, you name a sector and you need the supply chain.
Correct.
So I think I should rather say that first choice or not, I mean, I'm happy to be here. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Great answer. Khalid?
Yes, my father was also in aviation, so aviation was my first choice, but air cargo was unknown to me while I was making this choice, I can say that.
You're
So,
happy being here, right?
Of course.
Super. Kamesh?
Okay, being fifth in the line, so I had some time to think about it. Well, actually, it happened by coincidence. So I had a neighbor of mine where I used to live. He worked for an airline. So I was quite impressed by the smart uniforms that he used to wear, travel around the world. And those days, you know, I think the aviation or airline job was quite well respected in the society. So I was a graduate. I just came out of college and I was looking around what to do next. And then came an opportunity that I got to hear about a vacancy. And I applied for the job, then I landed up. You know, so I would say it wasn't the first, but it was definitely not the last thing in my mind. So it happened by chance, and I'm happy that I'm part of the aviation industry.
Soham?
Yeah, so I think being in technology is definitely first choice. Bit of a background, I was actually a banker before this. So where logistics kind of came in is we used a platform called Bloomberg over there, and as some of you may know, in the financial industry, you can't survive without that, right? Imagine all of those trades happening over emails, Excels, not happening, right? So he said, why not have a Bloomberg equivalent for the logistics industry? So that's
Super.
yeah.
Staying with you, and very quickly from now, because I can get dagger looks from Satish. I'm not looking at him. Mountains or beaches? Family holiday?
Mountains.
Mountains? Kamesh?
Surely mountains. Trek in the mountains is any day better than the beaches.
Mountains?
Yeah.
Khalid?
Mountains for me too.
Three
Greens
mountains.
and mountain.
Beaches.
Beaches?
Ladakh.
Ladakh?
Depends on my mood.
Staying back with you, one or two or three mentors who've guided you in this place. Quickly.
I'm not stating names. However, I've had more than 3, and they've all been very supportive. They've all been very very, very patient with me because I ask a lot of questions, and very much given. So they give me a lot of time in the busy schedules. They're very, very well-known cargo professionals, and that's the reason why I'm not going to mention names. And I was really lucky because they saw something different.
Okay.
So in Abu Dhabi, when I first moved, and just imagine this 10 years ago, an Emirati girl in Abu Dhabi shed, in tracksuit bottoms and a t-shirt, safety shoes, walking around trying to figure out how boxes are put on pallets. So those are the type of attractions that I think now, thinking back, that they saw, oh, that's unusual, that's different. So I just want to say thank you very much to them for giving me that opportunity and having that belief.
Dr. Zvi.
Well, when I started in the tech industry, the books by Geoffrey Moore were real classics, highly recommended. Crossing the Chasm, Inside the Tornado.
Great. Dr. Joshi?
I think it will be, you know, injustice if I take just 3 names.
Go ahead.
No, so rather than just taking name, I'll just say that I've been absolutely blessed with some amazing seniors and bosses to have, you know, been given the space to, you know, mention the dissent, argue that with my views, express them very strongly, and even being sometimes the junior most in the meeting, I have raised my topics and dissent at with the loudest of the voice in the room, and they have welcomed it, changed it, incorporated it, or tried to make me understand why they differ. So I think I've just been blessed with amazing bosses.
That's awesome. Khalid?
Yeah, I told aviation was my first choice, but for air cargo, I didn't have any knowledge. Ali Turk, our chief officer, he introduced cargo to me. Actually, we had a meeting with him. Then I chose to become a cargo person in the aviation. So I can count him first to introduce me to the sector.
Super.
Then I can say Turhan Özen, who gave the global perspective to me. Again, he was our chief officer. Many of us maybe know him. And I can count on the third person as Yash, who is just sitting here. For the future of air cargo, I think he's a very effective person that's driving the industry.
Good choice. Kamesh?
Can't really think of any mentors, but yes, in my 30 plus years of professional journey, I've been influenced or I've been impressed by a few thorough professionals whom I looked up to for guidance, for their wisdom, for their knowledge, experience, and their expertise. So I've had the pleasure of working for some real good professionals, and I did look up to them for advice, and I did imbibe in my own professional journey certain good practices that they followed. So yeah, no specific mentors, but definitely some good professionals that I had the honor of working with.
Soham?
Being from the outside, arguably,
Yeah.
we actually decided to formalize this mentorship process, and we actually have a board of advisors. These are members that are super experienced in the industry. So few of the names, Mr. Iyad Kamal, the ex-CEO of Aramex, he's one of the advisors very close to us. We have an ex-MD of Bridgestone who guides us on the automotive industry, and an ex-senior partner at McKinsey, Mr. Ramesh. So yeah, we actually have a very experienced board of advisors that guides us on the industry, so we can mix both the technology and the fundamentals.
Okay, so we do the last question, and from you back we go. One failure lesson that has given you the best learning.
I think just not giving up, right? Resilience is one of our core values as well. And yeah, I think just being there long enough, and yeah, it works out.
Kamesh?
I would say the risk-taking ability and the appetite for risk. So, normally you look at the entrepreneurs who are successful and you think there's something, special about them. And if I were to look at the difference between a successful entrepreneur and the one who's not made it, perhaps there is also this element of the appetite for risk and the ability to be in the game for the long haul. So the ones who have not been successful, maybe it's a coincidence, but I did realize that they were the ones who perhaps chickened out too soon, too early, and were not really prepared to take the risk the whole way.
Khalid, any failure lesson?
Actually, failure is part of our life and part of our industry. So I think when you change the failure to a
You learn.
new learning and successful service recovery and to a loyal customer, that's a chance. Failure means a chance, I think, for that.
Dr. Joshi?
I think I'll say status quo is easy, change is difficult, and one must remember that, the failure lessons are every day. The important point is to get up again, start again, and reach till you make the change.
Dr. Zvi?
Well, one thing I've learned is everyone's worried about being too late to market, and that can be a problem, but I've also had failures because I was too early to market. So timing is everything.
Madam Alnouz?
I've got a few. I think for me, just soak in as much as you can, make your mistakes, learn from them and move on. And I was having this conversation yesterday with someone, and he said to me, yesterday is gone, live for today because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
That's
Thank
a good
you.
one. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause to my panelists.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Excellent session, Keku. A big thank you to our panelists, Kamesh, Zvi, Soham, Halid, Jivisha, Alanud. Obviously, you got to hear a different side, which we don't usually hear at these business sessions. So it's all about cargo and how do we grow. So it was nice to get a little bit of the personal insight. I would like to request Mr. Varinder Kumar, Vice President of SA Cargo, and Mr. Faisal Hussain, Director Commercial and Key Account for SA Cargo, also to please come on stage to felicitate our panelists. Sakshi Gupta, if you could please come to felicitate our panelists and our moderator. So I don't know if Faisal? Yes. Welcome. My goodness. May I please request, we'll start with Soham, please. Come, yeah, if you could give the memento to Soham. And then Kamesh. Thank you, Halit. Jivishat. And Mr. Zvi. Alanud, thank you. And our wonderful moderator, Keku. Thank you, Keku. Thank you so much, panelists.
Can you all get together for a photograph?
One photograph, yeah.